What if I told you the Korean War never officially ended, and South Korea never signed the peace agreement?
Yes, it's true. On July 27, 1953, the guns went silent. But the paperwork tells a different story.
And here's the twist. South Korea's name is nowhere on the armistice.
North Korea still uses this fact to argue. You didn't sign, so you're not part of the deal.
Why would a country refuse to sign the agreement that ended a brutal war?
To understand that, we need to rewind. When the war broke out, President Syngman Rhee handed over command of South Korea's military to the UN commander, General MacArthur. From that moment, South Korean troops fought as part of a unified UN force.
So, in the end, the UN forces signed on behalf of the entire UN force, including South Korea, and the communist side was represented by China and North Korea.
But here's where things get complicated. The South Korean government at the time was actually opposed to the armistice. President Syngman Rhee and even student protesters opposed it, carrying signs that said, "Oppose the armistice." They feared that a truce would lead to the permanent division of the country, and that U.S. forces would withdraw. There was a lot of anti-war sentiment in the U.S., so President Syngman Rhee feared a quick withdrawal. Imagine fearing peace more than war, because peace might mean abandonment.
It was a real dilemma. They had to prevent the U.S. from leaving, but they couldn't continue sacrificing lives in the war. So, what do you do when every option feels like a trap?
To get around Syngman Rhee, the U.S. rushed to sign a prisoner of war agreement. When Rhee found out, he realized he had to take drastic measures. It was his final, desperate move. He ordered the release of anti-communist prisoners of war. The news spread quickly and shocked the world. Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister, was said to have been so shocked he nearly dropped his razor while shaving. President Eisenhower was furious and immediately sent an envoy to negotiate with Rhee. This wasn't just politics, it was a global jolt.
And what did the envoy propose?
Here comes the turning point. The envoy said, "Okay, we will give you what you want, as long as you agree to the armistice." Rhee agreed but refused to sign. He said, "Let the UN forces sign it." A week after the armistice was signed, the U.S.-Korea Mutual Defense Treaty was signed, which is the foundation of the alliance today. One signature changed the course of history and built the alliance we know now.
So, in the end, the armistice was signed, but 70 years have passed, and we are still technically in a state of war. How long is the armistice supposed to last? Here's the question no one wants to ask. Can a ceasefire last forever?
The armistice is valid until the conflict is resolved peacefully at a political level. No one who signed it in '53 could have imagined it would last this long. This is why a peace treaty has never been signed. There were meetings in Geneva in 1954 to try and change the armistice to a peace treaty, but the communist side demanded the U.S. withdraw from Korea, and the talks fell apart. Peace was on the table, but the pieces didn't fit.
So what exactly is a peace treaty?
Let's break it down. A peace treaty is an agreement that officially ends a war. It determines things like territorial borders and reparations for the defeated side.
So, can we initiate a peace treaty when we didn't even sign the armistice? Wait, can you end a war you never officially paused?
That's a good question. Let me ask you, are we a party to the armistice or not?
I'd say no, because we didn't sign it.
That's what many people think. It's true that we didn't sign it. However, we must remember that a South Korean Major General was a member of the armistice negotiation team from beginning to end. Furthermore, North Korea has acknowledged us as a party to the armistice in the 1992 North-South Basic Agreement and the 2018 Panmunjom Declaration. The most important thing is that South Korea and North Korea are the main parties who should sign a peace treaty. The U.S. and China would serve as guarantors.
The U.S. and China would serve as guarantors. So maybe it's not about who signed, but who lives with the consequences? It looks like the process to move from an armistice to a peace treaty won't be easy. But war must end, and I hope that day comes soon. And when that day comes, it won't just be history. It'll be healing.